The sun over Westwood Valley burned bright, but the pavement burned hotter. And that was exactly where Officer Derek Hunter wanted her. Down low, small, silent. On your knees. Now. His voice cut through the quiet morning like a blade. Drivers slowed. Curtains stirred. Cell phones lifted. And Ariana Lewis, a young black woman in a tailored navy suit, felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Her tote bag slipped, spilling papers across the street. Legal briefs, sealed files, a framed photo of her and her mother. One document slid close to Hunter's boot, the gold lettering catching his eye. Harvard Law School. He kicked it aside. Cute. Must be fake. Ariana's heartbeat roared in her ears. She had done nothing. No speeding, no swerving, no broken light. She was simply driving through a neighborhood where people like her were treated as intruders, never homeowners. "Officer, please," she said softly. "Tell me why I'm being detained." Hunter smirked. "You're being detained because you look out of place. That's enough." His hand rested on his holster in the practiced, casual way of a man who had learned intimidation before compassion. He circled her car deliberately, as though searching for a reason to justify a decision already made. Ariana stood still, refusing to shrink. Years of courtroom discipline kept her voice steady. "I'm an attorney. I work 5 minutes from here. I haven't committed any violation." Hunter laughed. "An attorney? Right. And I'm the president. Get your hands on the hood before I decide you're resisting." The words hit harder than the heat radiating from the metal. Ariana placed her palms on the surface, her dignity peeling like paint from old fences. A teenage boy across the street hit the record button on his phone. A jogger slowed. A car stopped at the corner. Everyone watched, but no one intervened. Hunter moved behind her. "Empty your pockets. This isn't necessary. It is when you're suspicious." Suspicious. The word had followed Ariana her entire life. Through department stores, airports, school hallways, and now, this street of manicured perfection and quiet hostility. Hunter stepped closer. Too close. "Turn around." She turned. His shadow swallowed hers. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" "Ms., what did you say your name was?" "I didn't." "Oh, so you're hiding something." His grin widened. Ariana felt anger push against her ribs, but she swallowed it. She had argued in front of judges. She had dismantled discrimination cases line by line. She had represented clients who faced far worse than this. But none of that prepared her for the humiliation of being treated like a threat for simply existing. Hunter suddenly grabbed her shoulder, forcing her downward. "On your knees." "No, officer, this is excessive." "On your knees." The world blurred. Her knees hit the pavement, the shock traveling through her spine. Pain burst. Gasps echoed from the watching crowd. "This is what happens," Hunter declared loudly, "when people forget where they belong." Her breath trembled. Not from fear. Fear was familiar, but from outrage. From exhaustion. From the endless weight of being underestimated, misjudged, mislabeled. Hunter reached for her wallet, flipping it open with a careless flick of his thumb. Driver's license. RID. Government passes. His eyes skimmed and stopped. His face shifted. Confusion first. Then recognition. Then terror. Ariana lifted her gaze, meeting his suddenly pale expression. He whispered the name slowly, as if saying it out loud would seal his fate. "Lewis. Ariana Lewis. Daughter of." And there it was, the moment his power shattered. The moment humiliation turned into realization. The moment the man who forced her down understood exactly who he had put on her knees, and exactly how deep his mistake ran. Ariana didn't move. She didn't need to. Because he finally knew. And justice, she knew, had just begun to turn. For a moment, the street fell silent. No cars passed. No birds chirped. No one breathed. Officer Derek Hunter stared at the license as if it were a live grenade in his hand. "Lewis. Ariana Elise Lewis," he repeated, his voice suddenly dry. His gaze flicked to her face, then back to the card. The state seal, the bar ID, the small gold emblem on the additional card tucked behind her license. California Department of Justice, Special Access. His throat tightened. "You're related to?" Ariana lifted her head, still kneeling on the burning road. Her voice came out low, controlled, terrifyingly calm. "Yes, I'm her daughter." The words hit him harder than any punch could have. Her daughter. The Attorney General. The top law enforcement officer in the state. The woman who approved funding, signed oversight reports, met with chiefs and commissioners and union leaders. His boss's boss's boss. Derek's hand began to shake. The license slipped slightly between his fingers. For the first time in a very long time, he was the one who felt small. This isn't what it looks like, he stammered, the hard edge of authority gone from his voice. Miss Lewis, ma'am, please stand up. You don't have to stay like that. Ariana didn't move. The asphalt still burned her knees. The humiliation still burned worse. Funny, she said quietly. 5 minutes ago, you insisted I stay exactly like this. Across the street, the teenage boy's livestream comment section exploded. Bro, he messed up. She's the AG's daughter? Keep recording, don't stop. A jogger whispered into her phone. I think this is going to be on the news. Derek felt a bead of sweat roll from his temple down his jaw. Listen, I didn't know who you were. You thought I didn't belong. Ariana finished for him. You thought I was suspicious. Because of my face. Because of my skin. Because I was driving a car you decided I shouldn't have. Painfully aware of the cameras now, Derek glanced around, searching for an escape that didn't exist. You matched a description, he tried again weakly. There was a report. Ariana blinked slowly. Then say the report on record. Right here. Right now. On camera. His mouth opened. No words came out. That was answer enough. Very slowly, Ariana pushed her palms against the hot pavement and stood. Her knees trembled from both heat and rage, but her spine stayed straight. She brushed dust and grit from her suit, the motion deliberate, almost ceremonial. Derek took a step back. In that single step, the power on that street changed sides. You're free to go, he said quickly. Let's just chalk this up to a misunderstanding. Ariana's eyes darkened. A misunderstanding? You forced me onto my knees in the middle of the road. You accused me of being a thief, a liar, a problem. You kicked my degree into the street and called it fake. Tell me, officer, would this still be a misunderstanding if my mother sold hair products instead of signing warrants? Derek swallowed. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Her voice sharpened. You meant every word until you saw a name that could hurt you. The teenager zoomed in, catching every expression, every crack in the officer's composure. Comment bubbles flooded the screen. This is what happens when they think you have no power. He only cares now because of her connections. Ariana bent, gathering her scattered papers with steady, practiced hands. It wasn't the first time she had picked up pieces of herself in front of strangers, but it felt like the last time she was going to do it quietly. One sheet, slightly crumpled, caught Derek's eye as she lifted it. Lewis versus Crossfield City, class action, police misconduct. He flinched. She noticed. Yes, she said, almost conversationally. I've been suing departments like yours for 3 years. I thought the statistics, the affidavits, the body cam footage were bad enough. She looked up at him, eyes blazing. Now I have something else. His voice shrank to a whisper. You're not going to tell her, are you? Your mother? Ariana stared at him for a long moment. Her entire life, people had asked her to swallow things. To let it go. To be the bigger person so that others didn't have to confront the smallness of their behavior. Officer Hunter, she said finally, you forced the Attorney General's daughter to kneel in the street. But more importantly, you forced another black woman to kneel in the street. You didn't know my last name then. And you didn't care. Derek's stomach dropped. This isn't just about my mother, Ariana continued. It's about everyone who didn't have a famous parent, or a degree, or cameras watching. Across the road, the jogger put her phone down and wiped her eyes. The teenage boy swallowed hard but kept recording. Even a homeowner who had come out just to watch drama now looked faintly ashamed. Derek tried one last time. If this goes public, it'll destroy my career. I've got kids. A mortgage. Please. I'm begging you. There it was. The word he'd never imagined using. Begging. For a flicker of a second, Ariana saw him not as a badge, but as a man, flawed, afraid, clutching the same fragile security everyone else did. But empathy didn't cancel consequences. It never had. She opened her car door and placed the papers gently on the passenger seat. Then she turned back to him, her voice quiet but lethal. You asked me to kneel, she said. Now you're the one on the ground, whether you see it yet or not. She slid into her seat, closed the door, and drove away without another word. Derek watched the tail lights disappear down the tree-lined street, feeling as if they were taking his future with them. Behind him, the teenager finally ended the live stream. But the video was already out there, saved, shared, stitched, copied. It was in group chats and timelines and DMs. It had left the block. It had left Westwood Valley. It was racing into a world that had grown tired of excuses. By the time Derek returned to his patrol car, his phone was buzzing nonstop. Missed calls from the sergeant. A text from another officer. "Bro, you're trending." He didn't open the app. He didn't have to. He knew exactly what the world would see. A white cop forcing a black woman in a suit to her knees, then panicking when he discovered her name. What he didn't know yet was what Ariana was going to do next. She drove in silence, jaw clenched, the image of herself on the pavement replaying behind her eyes. She had spent years helping other people fight back, filing motions, building cases, standing at podiums, and arguing for justice. Now the question sat heavy in her chest. Would she fight this, too? Or finally do what everyone kept telling her to do? Stay quiet, lie low, let it pass? Her phone lit up on the passenger seat. A text from a name she could never ignore. "MOM, call me. Now." Ariana exhaled slowly, the anger and hurt mixing into something sharper, steadier. She picked up the phone, pulled into a parking lot, and hit dial. "Mom," she said, her voice softer than it had been 5 minutes earlier. On the other end of the line, the Attorney General of the state answered not as an official, but as a mother whose protective instincts had just been set on fire. "Ariana," she said slowly, "I just saw a video." And with that sentence, the story stopped being a private humiliation and started becoming something much bigger. Ariana had expected anger. She had expected lectures. She had expected her mother's voice, tight with fear, asking why she had driven through that neighborhood alone. But what she heard instead was worse, far worse. Silence. Not the silence of shock. Not the silence of disbelief. But the silence of someone holding back a storm. "Ariana," her mother said at last, her tone as sharp as broken glass. "Tell me exactly what that officer did to you." Ariana closed her eyes, letting the memory settle like dust. "He profiled me. He forced me onto the road. He mocked my degree. He made me." Her breath stuttered. "He made me kneel." Another silence. Longer. Heavier. "Did he touch you?" "Yes." "Did you resist?" "No." "Did he draw his weapon?" He reached for it. "To scare me." A sharp inhale crackled through the phone. The Attorney General never showed emotion in public hearings, never raised her voice at press conferences, never displayed anger before an audience. But now she whispered, "My God." Ariana waited for the next question. "How bad? Are you hurt? Do you want me to come get you?" But none of those came. Instead, "Where are you right now?" "Parking lot outside the Station View Plaza." "Stay there. Don't move." Before Ariana could respond, the line clicked. It didn't matter. She knew her mother well enough to understand the subtext. Something has already begun. This will not be ignored. Her phone vibrated again, but this time the notification wasn't from her mother. It was from a coworker. "What happened? You're everywhere." Then another. "Ari, this is blowing up. The whole firm is talking." Then dozens. "Is that you in the video?" "Girl, we saw it on Twitter. Stay strong. Call me ASAP. This is going viral." Ariana's chest tightened as she opened the app. There she was, kneeling on the pavement, hands trembling, hair sticking to her cheeks. And Officer Hunter, towering above her with a smirk frozen forever in pixels. The clip had already been viewed 1.2 million times. Hashtags were exploding. Hashtag justice for Ariana. Hashtag kneeling is not compliance. Hashtag AGS daughter. Hashtag profiling caught on camera comment after comment after comment. This man needs to be fired. She was calm the whole time. Wow. Imagine doing this to anyone, let alone her. This is exactly why we need reform. She scrolled deeper. Influencers were sharing it. Civil rights groups were commenting. Local politicians were monitoring the situation. Reporters were tagging the Department of Justice. Ariana felt sick. She had survived humiliation in the street. Now she had to survive humiliation in front of millions. Her phone rang. This time, it wasn't her mother. It was her boss. She answered with a cautious hello. "Where are you?" Managing partner Sloan's voice was clipped, urgent. "We need you at the firm immediately." "Why?" "Because the board wants answers before the press does." Ariana almost laughed. "So this is about the firm's image?" "No. It's about liability." There it was. Truth, bare and cold. Her dignity mattered far less than the firm's reputation. "I'm not coming in," she said. "You need to." "No," she repeated. "I need to breathe." She ended the call. Her hands shook. The image of herself kneeling flashed again involuntarily. How small she had looked. How powerless. How exposed. Her car felt suffocating, so she stepped out, inhaling a shaky breath. She wasn't ready for what she saw. Across the parking lot, a small crowd gathered. Some recognized her. Some approached cautiously. A woman in medical scrubs stepped forward. "I'm so sorry that happened to you. I saw the video. No one deserves that." Ariana swallowed the instinct to smile politely, to deflect, to minimize. "Thank you," she managed. Another voice chimed in from the back. "We're proud of you. You stayed strong." Someone else whispered, "He's done for." Ariana wasn't sure. Cops rarely fell. Systems rarely cracked. But before she could respond, her mother's black government SUV rolled into the parking lot. It stopped with a precision that betrayed urgency. The back door opened. Attorney General Ariana Lewis stepped out. Regal, composed, terrifyingly calm. But her eyes burned with rage Ariana had never seen. She walked straight to her daughter, placed both hands on Ariana's face, and examined her as if checking for hidden wounds. Then she pulled her into a fierce embrace. Not as the AG, not as a public figure, but as a mother whose child had been wronged. When she finally pulled back, her voice carried steel disguised as softness. "We're going to handle this," she said. "How?" Ariana whispered. "Legally. Publicly. Completely." "But Mom." "No," Elaine's tone turned sharp. "This ends now. Not just for you. For everyone he's ever done this to." Ariana's heart stuttered. "You're launching an investigation?" Elaine's jaw tightened. "Honey," she said, "the investigation already started the moment that video hit 200,000 views." Ariana blinked. 200,000. Elaine stared at her with a gravity that chilled the air. "Check again." Ariana turned toward her phone. Her notification count was wild, overflowing, impossible to keep up with. The video was no longer local news. It had crossed state lines, then oceans. 5 million. 7 million. 9. Derek Hunter wasn't just a cop who crossed a line anymore. He was a symbol, a spark, a knife sliding into the heart of a system that had pretended to be blind. Ariana's voice slipped out as a whisper. "Mom, what are we walking into?" Elaine straightened, eyes like sharpened storm clouds. "War," she said. But this time, she took her daughter's hand, holding it with unshakable certainty. "We fight it on our terms." Ariana exhaled. Slowly, steadily. She had spent her life giving others a voice. Now, whether she liked it or not, millions had handed her a microphone. And she was just beginning to understand what that meant. By the time Ariana and her mother reached the Department of Justice building, the video had climbed past 12 million views. News vans crowded the street like vultures sensing a fresh wound. Cameras turned instantly toward their arrival, microphones lifting like weapons. Reporters shouted questions through the chaos. "Ms. Lewis, was this racially motivated?" "Attorney General, is the officer suspended?" "Ariana, will you press charges?" "Is this the start of a civil rights lawsuit?" Ariana felt her pulse spike. The noise was suffocating, the attention overwhelming. But her mother's hand on her back was steady, firm, guiding her forward. Elaine leaned close. "Do not answer anything. Let me handle this." Ariana nodded, focusing on the doors ahead. She had argued in courtrooms, faced hostile judges, debated experts, but nothing prepared her for the weight of millions watching her every move. Inside, the atmosphere flipped from chaotic to coldly controlled. Staff snapped to attention as the Attorney General passed. Phones buzzed. Screens lit up. Meeting rooms filled. The air felt charged, like the moments before a major storm breaks. A tall man in a Navy suit approached them. Deputy Director Harris, her mother's most trusted aide. "Ma'am," he said, "the governor's office has called 3 times. Civil Rights Division is on standby. Internal Affairs is waiting for your directive. This case is turning national." Elaine didn't slow. "Good. Let them watch." But Ariana hesitated. "Mom, before this becomes political theater, I need you to understand, I don't want to be used." Her mother stopped, turning to face her. "You won't be." "How can you promise that?" Ariana whispered. "Because this isn't about power. It's about truth." Ariana exhaled, tension softening just slightly. They entered the conference room where a dozen officials waited: analysts, legal advisors, civil rights investigators. A large screen displayed the video, paused at the moment Derek pushed Ariana downward. Her own image stared back at her, frozen, humiliated, kneeling. A chill ran through her. She wanted to look away, but she forced herself not to. Elaine gestured to a seat. Sit. Listen. The civil rights investigator, Dr. Liana Cortez, stood. Her expression carried both urgency and fury. In the last 24 hours, we've reviewed Officer Hunter's history. The pattern is disturbing. She clicked a remote. A new slide appeared. Traffic stops. Hunter, D. Statistics filled the screen. Numbers Ariana had seen in her own cases. Numbers she had spent her career trying to prove existed. Numbers now tied directly to her own incident. Over 80% of his stops were against people of color, Dr. Cortez said. In a district where minority residents make up only 18% of the population. Another click. Complaints filed, 27 in the past 2 years. All dismissed. Another click. Use of force reports, disproportionate. Almost always against Black or Hispanic drivers. A hush settled. One Ariana had heard in courtrooms, in boardrooms, in every place where truth finally became impossible to ignore. Deputy Director Harris cleared his throat. It's not just him. His entire precinct shows similar patterns. If we open this investigation, it won't stop at one officer. Elaine leaned forward, fingers steepled. Good. It shouldn't. Ariana felt something inside her shift. A collision between horror and vindication. This wasn't just about one moment in the street. It was a door opening to a room full of hidden rot. And once opened, it couldn't be closed. Ma'am, Harris continued. The police union is already preparing statements. They're claiming Ariana exaggerated. They say Hunter acted legally. Ariana's jaw clenched. Legally. He claims he was responding to suspicious activity. What suspicious activity? Driving while Black. Silence answered her. Elaine stood, the room automatically falling even quieter. We are initiating a full-scale civil rights investigation. Effective immediately. I want every file, every report, every complaint. No redactions. No delays. Harris nodded. Yes, ma'am. Notify the governor that this office will not be intimidated by the union or local officials. Then she turned to Ariana. And you, my daughter, you will not be silenced. Ariana swallowed. She wasn't sure she was ready to be the center of this storm. But her mother's voice left no space for doubt. You have a chance to speak for everyone he mistreated. For every person who walked away thinking they were alone. You can choose to hide, or you can choose to lead. Ariana felt her throat tighten. I don't know if I'm strong enough. Elaine softened, stepping closer. Strength isn't something you have before the fight. It comes during the fight. Before Ariana could respond, Harris's phone buzzed. He checked it, eyes widening. Ma'am, more victims are coming forward. How many? Elaine asked. 42 so far. A collective breath swept the room. Ariana's stomach dropped. She whispered, all from him. Yes. Her world spun. 42 people. 42 kneelings. 42 humiliations. 42 stories of fear. She thought of the teenage boy filming. The jogger whispering into her phone. The people who passed her on the street, pretending not to see because seeing meant acknowledging pain they didn't know how to fix. She whispered, I can't believe this was happening to so many. Dr. Cortez stepped closer. Most victims never report it. Your video didn't just expose him. It gave others courage. Ariana stared at the screen again. At the image of herself, knees scraping pavement. She had seen many cases, many videos, many injustices, but she had never imagined becoming the evidence. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder. This isn't the end of your story, Ariana. Ariana looked up. What is it then? Elaine's answer was a whisper heavy with truth. The beginning of everyone else's. Ariana breathed in, slow and steady, letting the fear settle into something steadier, purpose. Outside the room, the world kept spinning. News anchors kept speaking. Politicians chose sides. Millions kept watching. But in that conference room, something deeper was unfolding. A crack in the system. A fracture widening. A signal flare rising into the sky. Ariana didn't know where the fight would lead. But she knew this. She was no longer kneeling. And Derek Hunter was no longer the one with power. The next morning, Ariana woke to a world she no longer recognized. Her phone buzzed nonstop, notifications, mentions, news alerts, interview requests. Overnight, the video had crossed 23 million views. A single moment of humiliation had become a national reckoning. She sat up slowly, her muscles still stiff from the stress of the previous day. A dull bruise darkened her knee, a physical reminder of the pavement she had been forced onto. She brushed her fingers over it, inhaling sharply. It wasn't the pain that bothered her, it was the symbolism of it. That bruise belonged to every person who had been ordered to shrink so someone else could feel powerful. Her mother entered her room without knocking, holding a folder thick with printouts. "You're trending in 39 states," Elaine said calmly. "And the number of victims has reached 73. Ariana's breath hitched. 73. Yes. Elaine set the folder on the table. 73 people with nearly identical stories, all tied to Officer Hunter's precinct. Ariana opened the folder with trembling fingers. Complaints, dates, recorded statements, years of pain, ignored and buried. A teenage girl accused of walking suspiciously. A father forced face down in front of his crying children. A nurse stopped 3 times in 1 month. Stories of humiliation, fear, powerlessness. Ariana whispered. Why didn't anyone help them? Elaine sat beside her. Because no one believed them. Because their voices didn't carry weight. Until yours forced the world to listen. Ariana looked at her mother, eyes stinging. I never wanted to be a symbol. No one ever does, Elaine replied gently. But symbols are not chosen. They emerge. Before Ariana could respond, her phone lit up again, this time with a name that made her blink. Maria Jenkins, Los Angeles Herald, investigative journalist. The message read, I've been documenting police bias for 5 years. Your video opened the floodgates. I have information you need to see. Ariana hesitated. Mom, should I? Elaine gave a slow nod. Yes, it's time to see how deep this goes. 2 hours later, they sat across from the journalist in a quiet DOJ conference room. Maria laid out the findings like a surgeon revealing x-rays. This isn't about one officer, she said, tapping a stack of reports. This is an institutional pattern protected by money, influence, and silence. She opened a file. The precinct receives federal funding based on proactive policing metrics. The more stops, citations, and arrests, especially in high-income districts, the more money they receive. Ariana frowned. So he wasn't just profiling people. He was profiting from it. Maria nodded. Exactly. And he had protection. The union fought every complaint. The department buried evidence. Officers who generated more revenue were praised, not punished. Elaine's jaw tightened. This isn't incompetence. This is corruption. Maria slid another document forward. And here's the worst part. Hunter is not the only one. 7 officers in his district show nearly identical patterns. This was coordinated. A cold heaviness settled in Ariana's stomach. Coordinated to do what? Exclude us. To police presence, not behavior, Maria answered. To control appearance, not crime. Ariana's chest tightened. It could have been anyone. Any day. Yes, Maria said softly. And it was 73 times. Ariana closed her eyes. The weight of it was crushing. But beneath that weight, something else began to grow. A steady flame, quiet but powerful. She sat straighter. What now? Maria glanced at Elaine. Now? You have influence. Your mother has authority. And the public has their eyes wide open. Elaine nodded. We're launching a statewide audit. No department is exempt. Every complaint will be reviewed. Every officer investigated. Maria leaned in. And you, Ariana, you need to speak. Not as the AG's daughter. Not as a victim. But as an attorney who understands the law and the pain behind it. Ariana swallowed. You want me to address the public? Yes, Maria said. They need a face. A voice. A truth no one can spin. Ariana hesitated, but only for a moment. Okay, she whispered. I'll do it. That afternoon, a podium was set outside the DOJ building. A crowd filled the street. Activists, community members, victims, reporters, cameras, everything humming with tension and anticipation. Ariana stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding. She tightened her grip on the speech she had written in the last hour. But when she looked at the crowd, she slowly folded the paper and set it aside. She didn't need it. Not anymore. She took a breath. My name is Ariana Lewis, she began, voice steady. Yes, I'm the Attorney General's daughter. Yes, that video is real. Yes, that happened to me. Camera shutters clicked. The street grew silent. But I'm not here today because of my name. I'm here because 73 people came forward in 24 hours. 73 people who suffered the same treatment. 73 people who were ignored. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. And I need you to hear me clearly. Ariana continued, her voice rising. What happened to me wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a mistake. It was part of a pattern, a system, that targets people who look like me. She exhaled slowly. But that ends now. A cheer broke out, loud and fierce. Ariana's heartbeat raced, but she pressed on. We are launching a statewide investigation. No more silence. No more excuses. No more hiding behind badges, paperwork, or protocol. This moment is not about one officer. It's about everyone who has ever been forced to kneel, literally or figuratively, just to feel safe. She scanned the crowd. I stood up from that pavement. And now we will all stand up. The applause shook the air. Voices rose in unity. For the first time since that morning on the road, Ariana felt something powerful, hope mixed with fire. Her mother stepped beside her, placing a hand over hers. You did well, Elaine whispered. Ariana smiled faintly. This is only the beginning, isn't it? Elaine nodded. Yes. And the hardest part is next. Ariana lifted her chin, eyes fixed on the crowd. I'm ready. Because what once felt like humiliation had become momentum. And momentum, she knew, was unstoppable. The pressure didn't fade in the days that followed. If anything, it intensified. The country was watching now. Every hour brought new developments. More victims stepping forward, more evidence uncovered, more departments requesting legal counsel as the investigation widened. Ariana barely slept. She spent her mornings preparing statements, her afternoons reviewing victim testimonies, and her nights sitting with her mother in the DOJ war room, surrounded by papers, screens, and exhausted staff. Yet for the first time, exhaustion didn't feel like defeat. It felt like purpose. On the 5th day, the DOJ convened the first public oversight hearing. Cameras lined the walls. Rows of seats filled with journalists, activists, victims, and officials. This wasn't a trial, but it felt like one. The entire state watched as the system finally had to answer for itself. Ariana sat quietly beside her mother at the front table. Her presence alone made half the room lean forward, anticipating every expression, every reaction. She wasn't the victim hiding behind legal jargon. She was the woman who had chosen to stand publicly in the fire. The first to testify was a young mother with trembling hands. I was pulled over with my infant in the car, she said, voice breaking. He told me, women like you shouldn't be driving luxury cars. I thought about filing a complaint, but I knew nothing would happen. Another man followed. He made me lie face down. Said it was procedure. I still think about that day every time a police siren passes. One after another, they spoke. Nurses, students, engineers, retirees. None of them criminals. All of them marked by the same pattern of humiliation. Ariana listened, her fingers curled tightly around a pen. She wanted to speak, to apologize, to fight. But this moment wasn't hers to dominate. It belonged to the people whose voices had been buried. When Officer Derek Hunter finally entered the room, the atmosphere shifted like a sudden gust of cold wind. He wore a suit instead of a uniform, but nothing could soften the reality of what he represented. He avoided Ariana's gaze, staring at the table as if the wood grain might save him. He was sworn in. Officer Hunter, the investigator began. Do you acknowledge that you forced Ms. Lewis to kneel on the pavement? Derek hesitated. I followed protocol. Is kneeling part of protocol? No. So why did you do it? I thought she was a threat. A ripple of anger swept the room. A woman alone, in a suit, complying with every instruction, was a threat. Derek's face flushed. I couldn't know who she was. Ariana felt the familiar sting return. There it is, someone whispered from the audience. The investigator pressed harder. Would you have treated her the same way if you had known she was the Attorney General's daughter? Silence. Hunter's jaw clenched. No. Gasps and murmurs. Ariana closed her eyes. She hadn't expected him to admit it. Hearing the truth land in the open, unfiltered, unprotected, hit her harder than she anticipated. The investigators continued with precision. Records show 73 similar incidents. Can you explain the disproportionate targeting? His voice collapsed into a whisper. I was told to keep the neighborhood safe. Safe from whom? From people who don't belong. The room froze. He had said it. The quiet part. The part buried in paperwork, hidden behind euphemisms, washed clean by policy. Now it was public record. Ariana Lewis stood. For the record, she said, her voice steady as stone. My daughter belongs everywhere the law protects. And so does every person targeted by this officer and this system. Hunter looked down. His career, his pride, his certainty, they crumbled in front of everyone. Within an hour, after reviewing evidence and testimony, the commission delivered its recommendations. Officer Hunter, termination effective immediately. Referral for federal civil rights charges. Revocation of law enforcement certification. Department-wide restructuring. Independent oversight for all traffic stops. Revision of federal funding criteria. Statewide audit of every department with similar patterns. The room erupted, not in celebration, but in cathartic relief. Victims cried, hugged each other, whispered prayers. Journalists typed furiously. Officials nodded gravely, knowing history had just shifted a degree. Ariana remained still, absorbing every sound, every movement. Her humiliation had become a catalyst, not intentionally, not heroically, but truthfully. After the hearing, people approached her, softly, respectfully. One man whispered, "Thank you for not staying silent." A young girl said, "You made us brave." An older woman held Ariana's hands tightly. "My son went through this years ago. No one listened. Thank you for making them listen now." Ariana hugged her back, tears burning behind her eyes. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Ariana and her mother walked to the DOJ building's rooftop, a place Elaine often went to think. "You did it," Elaine said softly. Ariana shook her head. "We did it." "No," her mother smiled. "You opened the door. We only helped widen it." Ariana looked out over the city lights. "Do you think things will actually change?" Elaine's gaze was steady. "Change isn't one moment. It's a chain reaction. Your video didn't end anything. It began everything." Ariana exhaled, letting her shoulders finally relax. "You know," she said quietly, "I thought kneeling would break me." Elaine placed an arm around her. "Sometimes the moments meant to break us become the reasons we rise." Ariana leaned into her mother's shoulder, watching the city breathe beneath them. The world was far from perfect, the fight far from over. But something had cracked open, a truth too large to bury again. The humiliation she once wished could disappear would now protect people she'd never meet. Her voice, once trembling, now echoed across the state. Her pain, once isolating, had become collective strength. She wasn't just a symbol anymore. She was a turning point. And for the first time since that terrible moment on the pavement, Ariana allowed herself to feel something she hadn't dared to. Hope. Real, unshakable hope.